Hi, it's Sean, and you're listening to The 3-Month Vacation. At which point in your business life do you think that you are most vulnerable? In today's podcast, we're going to look at the 5 stages of entrepreneurship and probably the most vulnerable point of all. It's a short podcast. It should be. It's just meant to make you think a bit. And then there's a fun bit at the end. So what's the first stage when we start out as an entrepreneur? And you know that stage, that's the struggle when you're always trying to find work, trying to find clients, trying to do something. And you look around you, just like I looked around me when I got to New Zealand. And I wanted to find people who had already made it. So I looked at people like Dan Kennedy and Jay Abraham, and especially Brian Tracy, who I felt a special affinity for. I bought all of his CDs, yes, CDs and tapes and books. And that is the first stage when everything is a struggle, when we don't know anything. And yet we're trying to be the consultant. We're trying to be the people that someone should spend money with. Now, it might be different for you, but in all the years that we've been in marketing, I've seen a lot of businesses, and you can tell when someone is at the starting phase because they're always building themselves up to be bigger than they really are. But it's a struggle, all right. You just can't find clients. Then you find clients, and then they're not such good clients. They make you run around. They don't pay you on time. And then there are the good ones, the ones that really make you feel like you're worth something. And that takes you to the second stage. And you know you're in the second stage because you start to get fussy. At first, all you're trying to do is to cover the bills, which is what we were doing when we started out in marketing. We had a mortgage and we had certain payments to make. And back then, $3,000 is what we needed every single month, no matter what. So whichever clients came our way, good, bad, we would take them all. But once we got past that $3,000 mark, we started to get fussy. We started to look at which clients we could work with, which clients we would say yes to, which clients we would drop, which clients we wouldn't even take on in the first place. And once we started to get consistently past that $3,000 mark, about $3,500, sometimes maybe even $4,000, then we could get into that fussy stage. So we started out with just gasping for breath, grabbing at straws. But then you move on to the stage where you're getting fussy, which then takes you to the third stage. And if we were to take that $3,000 as a benchmark, then let's say we're now earning $5,000. You can now put away some of that money. You can put it in savings or investments, or some people just decide to go on a holiday somewhere. It's up to you how you work with that disposable income, but you have disposable income. You've paid for your computer, you've paid for your business cards, you've paid for everything, and you're in a stage where you're starting to feel that you're not sinking all the time, but that you're bobbing on the water quite happily. You feel that if you could go on this way for at least a little while, or even a long time, you'd be quite okay. And you would think that this stage would last forever, but it never does, because you have to go to the fourth stage. And the fourth stage is where you look around you and you see that there are other people just like you, and they at least seem to have a much larger income. Their holidays seem to be a little more ostentatious than yours. and you think, wait a second, I need to get in on this secret. What are they doing that I'm not doing? And they also seem to be more famous than you. They seem to have more followers on Twitter or TikTok or wherever, and they seem to be more famous. And you want to be in that same spot. So you decide, okay, let me sign up for whatever it is that they're selling. Let me get into the inner circle. Let me figure it out as well. And then I can duplicate exactly, or at least close to exactly, what it is that they're doing. And so then I can get at least half their income or half the fame, and then work my way up from there, which is what we did at Psychotactics as well. One of the big reasons why I signed up with Jay Abraham was because he used to have these events where he'd have 1,500 people in the audience. And he'd charge them, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000. Now, I know now that it doesn't matter. You don't have to charge so much and you don't have to have that many people. But back then, I didn't know any better. I didn't have any benchmark than what was being presented to me. But I still wanted to know how he went about things. And so we started spending quite a lot of money. At some point, we'd probably spent about $20,000. That wasn't for any consulting. That was just for books and courses. And then we spent some more. And eventually we stopped. But I moved on to other people. I wanted to learn how to create a membership site, and this was 5000 BC, which started all the way back in 2003. And I joined another membership site, which was run by Bill Myers. I learned how he ran the site. I wanted to know how he put together software, which was very rare back then. There were membership sites, but, not so many. And this is how we find ourselves in stage 4, where we're reasonably comfortable in terms of income. Our clients are not always great, but they're not bad either. We're picking and choosing clients. And now we're looking at ramping things up to be like our mentors, or to be like people that we admire, or just people who are more successful, who we perceive to be more successful. And because we have a little amount of surplus money, we are now in a position to get into the inner circle, to understand how we're being sold, to understand the ins and outs of things. And this takes us to the 5th stage. By this point, you should be well set. But you're not, because this is the most vulnerable position of all. When I ask clients why they started up in business, they usually don't say that they want to make $1 million. Those are the nutcases. The people that start up in business, they say that they have an idea, they want to promote something, they want to spend more time with their family. They don't like being in a job at the beck and call of somebody else. And everybody likes to be comfortable in terms of revenue, but that's not generally top of mind. But when we get to stage 5, we get to a stage of envy. Take, for instance, a friend of mine. He has a podcast. He started his podcast at approximately the same time as I did. I could safely say that his content is not worse or better than our podcast. However, by a series of lucky incidents and quite a bit of hard work, he started to get about 3 million downloads. And at that point, we had about 15,000, which is exceptional. We now have fewer, maybe 10,000 or 5,000 at times. But what started to bug me a lot was the fact that he had so many downloads, and I had, in my mind at least, so few. And we met at several podcast conferences, and one of the times he was sitting in the car, And he said to me, I'm kind of envious of you. And I said, why? I knew that he had way more podcast downloads than I did. But he said, well, you've got so much time. You paint and you draw and you're seemingly always sitting at the cafe talking to people and taking pictures. And to keep my podcast going, I have to do a recording 3-4 times a week, and then lots of these promotions, and then I have to do interviews, so I have to get ready for those interviews and make sure everything goes right. I don't have as much time. And you spend time with your nieces, and I have a couple of kids, and I really would like to spend more time with them. So there I was getting envious about someone who in turn was envious about me. This fifth stage is where you can already do what others are doing, but they are charging more, they have a greater amount of fame, and where you feel somehow that you are being cheated of all of that. That somehow you deserve it more, or at least as much as they do. There is a great amount of envy in this stage. And for what? In stage 2, you'd already gotten control over your expenses and you were starting to put away some money. Stage 3 was even better. Stage 4, you improved even further. And now, envy? But that's normal. And that's because everybody on YouTube is seemingly doing better than you and I are. Everybody's more famous, and it's driving you crazy. And this is the part where you start to lose control over things. You want to make more money because it's fashionable to do so. You want to be famous because you think that's a good idea. And, you have to ask yourself, if you were starting up again, would you not rather be in stage 2 or stage 3 or stage 4 and be quite happy with it? That you didn't really need stage 5. I mean, it's a great place to be, where you are in a position to have time to be envious. But wouldn't it be nice if we could just stop at stage 4, where we'd earned enough, we were still learning from other people, and we had good clients. And we have lots of time to waste. Just sit at the cafe doing nothing, not doubling our income and trebling our income and all of that nonsense that we hear of continuously online. We don't really need to be famous. You have to be famous for a week or 2 weeks before you realize that you don't get any time to yourself. Everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants a selfie. Everybody wants you to be nice all the time. And you don't need to be nice all the time. You just need to be by yourself some of the time. So stage 5, with all that fame and all of that extra bit, that's the part that's most dangerous of all. You wouldn't think so, but that's how it is. It's a game of one-upmanship. And I think we'd all be so much happier if we just went stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4 and stopped. Unfortunately, we'll all enter stage 5. And that's when you need to control things. So that brings us to the end of this podcast. What did we cover? Well, we went through all of the stages and found out that stage 5, where we're most envious about other people and we think that we deserve as much, well, you can't get only part of what they have. You can't just get their fame, their fortune. You have to get their headaches. You have to get their neck problem, back problem, all the problems that they have. You have to get all of that stuff as well. So there's no point in being envious about them. But of course we will be, and if you get over that, then things are cool. So that brings us to the end of this podcast. Let's find out what's happening in psychotactics land. On April the 27th, we have the article writing course. That's the home study. And I don't know about you, but I asked some of the members who had done the article writing course, would they use something like ChatGPT to create articles? We'll do a little podcast on that. But the general answer between you and me is no. And I think you know that as well. I mean, ChatGPT is a nice thing. AI is a nicer thing when it happens. But would you prefer that a machine wrote your articles? And why wouldn't you want a machine to write your articles? What would you want so that you could control things a little bit more? You'll find that the article writing course, it kind of fulfills a need that we all want. We all wanted to draw, to write, and to speak when we were little. And this is the writing part. So go to psychotactics.com and go to AW Goodies, and you'll get the goodies. And you'll be on the waiting list for the article writing course. That's me saying bye for now, but wait a second. This is April, and this was recorded right at the start of April, so there's April Fool jokes, which is a tradition. Wait for it. It's coming. Still listening? Well, guess what I did for April Fool's Day? You may know it or not, but I've owned a Tesla for a couple of years. And way back in November last year, I got a loan car. That's because my car was out for repairs. Now, my car is blue, but this car was white. And I decided to plan for April Fool's Day in November. The plan was pretty simple. I was going to message all of Renuka's family and tell them that I'd got a new car. And I had photos to prove it. But something happened that made that whole situation even better. About a month and a half ago, Tesla sent an email because they had released the 2024 version of their car. It's an upgrade, like upgrading your software, I guess. The timing was perfect as well. They would deliver the car at the end of March, which meant it was very close to April the 1st. So that set the whole thing in motion. I sent out that email to the family, and then a couple of weeks later I brought it up casually on Messenger, and that was that. And then Easter Sunday rolled along, and Renuka has this Easter egg hunt, which is mad and crazy, and people running around in all directions trying to find their Easter eggs. And at that point in time, my brother-in-law asked me whether I was going ahead with the upgrade. And I told him it was going to happen the next day. Now, the next day happens to be Monday, Easter Monday. And that's not a very convenient day because theoretically, or even practically, everything is closed. Everything closes here in New Zealand on kind of mid-Thursday, and then nothing really opens until Tuesday. However, I'd already taken the pictures from different angles. I looked at the new Tesla and the old Tesla and how they were different and made sure to hide any of the angles which showed that this was indeed an old Tesla. But there was one big problem, and that is white. I'm not the kind of person who would buy a car that was white. I'd probably go for red. I'd probably go for blue, which is what we have. But white seems a bit, well, not my style. The 1st of April came along, Easter Monday, very inconvenient. I had an alarm for around 10:30. And precisely at 10:30 I sent out the message. For a while there was nothing, no response, and then it came in, congratulations, cool. Very cool. But my sister-in-law, Audrey, she was not part of this conversation. She had been out camping, and she decided that I probably changed the color. Now, this is quite easy to do in AI these days. And I was kicking myself because I thought, oh, if I'd only done a video just going around the car, now that would have been more believable. Anyway, I decided to go one step further. I have this app called TripIt, and whenever we're going on holiday, TripIt will automatically suck in all the information that I get from all the hotels and airplane bookings and all of those bookings, and then it lays it out one after the other in that software. So you can see where you're on the 21st, on the 22nd, if everything aligns properly. Because the first April Fool's joke had kind of fallen flat with one person out of four, one person, I still wanted to go for it. I decided to create a fake itinerary in TripIt. And we're off to Portugal in a few weeks. And logically, the entire plan should have been just Portugal, Portugal, and more Portugal. But I decided to create a brand new itinerary. I named it France 2024. And then I put in actual hotels, actual flight numbers. I also realized that they wouldn't buy into us just going from Portugal to France. So the first week was France and the rest was Portugal. And I thought, they'll fall for this. Then I sent it to them, asking them to check whether it was going to open in TripIt. And it bombed. They were so busy with just camping or being out on Easter Monday that nobody bothered to look at the itinerary. I mean, maybe if they had been at the office and it had been a work day, they would have gone through it. But it was Easter Monday. It was a holiday. And so they didn't. And yeah, I still keep at it. We've been quite successful with April Fool's jokes before, but it gets harder and harder every year as their antenna goes up. But we'll be back next year again. I hope you had a good April 1st. I hope you pulled some pranks. I'll say bye for now, and I'll see you in 5000 BC. Bye-bye.